Hogstye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a hazmat-tastic episode of the Hogstye. It's Alex here as your host this week. I'm back. I was doing a Super Secret project for our friend Rick Snyder last week. I believe that was last week.
It was last week, last 2 weeks, yeah.
Yes, all these crazy fever dreams have me a little blurry because I'm under quarantine, and not like selectively, like I've been told I have to because of a flight my wife is on.
I'm wearing my old military chem suit. You guys can't see me because I'm terrified of getting coronavirus through the microphone from Alex.
Yeah. You're only, 3,000 miles away. And
yeah.
We have a guest, though, who is also several thousand miles from both of us, and that is Zach Hicks, who used to be do some Redskins coverage. He was with Locked On Redskins. Mm-hmm. But recently, he moved over to Cover One and has been covering the Colts. But Zach, we want to welcome you to the show.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's great to get back to my roots and talk Redskins. I mean, I grew up a Redskins fan. I worked covering the Redskins for quite a while. The Colts pay a little bit better right now, but it's nice to talk about Redskins again.
That's not a high bar,
No.
to say the Colts are better than the Redskins. The first one, the most important question, though, Zach, is how are you preparing for the coming zombie apocalypse?
Sure.
That's what I want to know.
Well, I'm just going to keep doing what I normally do. I don't leave the house that much anyway. I mean, I just kind of have NFL Game Pass kind of, loaded up all the time anyway. So, I'll just probably watching more film.
I think there's a common theme among podcasters that they will not notice the difference. So.
Yeah, that's because I spend every weekend watching all 22 also. I mean, that's what I do every day, too. So we'll never even notice the zombies coming. That's the thing.
Right.
If someone rings the doorbell, I'll just do what I normally do. I'll just kind of hide them in the back of my house. Won't even go get the door.
Sounds like you're a brother of my own heart, man.
Yeah. I think, it's going to, I'm sure that for me, actually being forced to be kind of shut in, it's going to get a little annoying in a couple days, but I'm only one day.
Come over to the side of the shut-in, Alex. Join us.
Yeah. It's not that far of a leap for me. But let's actually get into the stuff we want to talk to Zach about here. Zach, because you cover the Colts, we actually thought we'd start with some of the free agents you guys have who might be hitting the market that we know the Redskins kind of want. Specifically, you guys have your left tackle who's going to hit the free agency market, Anthony Costanzo. Am I pronouncing that right? Because those Italian names trick me up.
Costanzo.
Okay. So Anthony Costanzo, he's 32? And he's going to be probably the top free agent tackle on the market right now. So can you tell us a little bit about him? Are the Colts going to let him go, you think? And, what do you think the possibilities of him really being in play for the Redskins are?
Yeah, so I mean we'll go through all these free agents here, but I think the least likely one to hit free agency is going to be Costanzo. I just really don't think it's even much of a chance. I mean, when they asked him before the offseason started here, when he was considering retirement, he did say that it's either going to be Colts or retirement, basically, to the media. And I think right now we're not seeing him sign because they're waiting on the new CBA deal. I think the second that kind of comes in, he'll get his new deal. It's going to be they already kind of said it's going to be like a 1-year deal with the Colts. So maybe he hits the market, just something falls through at the last second. But I think for the most part, he's going to be back with the Colts. And honestly, he would be the number one tackle to hit the market if he did. I mean, he was probably a top 5, at worst, like top 7 left tackle in football last year. I know Pro Football Focus had him at number 2 in the NFL last year. So, yeah, he's great, but it's definitely big that the Colts get him back, especially when they have, like $300 million in cap space to bring him back.
Well, the thing is, to me, you bring in a 32-year-old left tackle, and he needs to be nothing more than a stopgap anyway. And I don't know if Costanza would want to take stopgap money in the stopgap contract. I don't know if he would be right for the Redskins anyway.
Well, the thing is, too, with him is, he mulled retirement these last couple of weeks, and that's why the Colts, they say going forward, it's going to be like a bunch of 1-year deals with him because each off season going forward, he's going to consider retirement. So, Even if he did say something falls through with the Colts and he goes to the Redskins or he goes somewhere else, it would still be like a 1-year deal thing where he's going to be considering retirement after the year. I don't know if that really helps the Redskins, for instance, because you'd be back in the same market looking for a left tackle the next year.
Yeah.
So the moral of this story then, Redskins fans, is forget the Costanza dream.
Yeah, yeah. I've been telling that to Browns fans too. Browns fans have been in my mentions quite a bit, saying that they can offer more or something. I'm like, he's not leaving the Colts. So
the Browns fans need to come over to our side of the fence. Yeah. Take Trent Williams out of our hands, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Browns have been one of the teams rumored for the Trent Williams stuff, which, that's a whole nother topic. But let's keep going with some of these Colts guys, though. I think the next big name Redskins fans are kind of eyeballing is going to be Ebron, of course. You guys were looking at having both Doyle and Ebron hit the market at one point, but I guess Doyle re-signed in December.
Yep.
So which I'm kind of surprised they re-signed the older veteran rather than the younger guy. So does that mean it's kind of a guarantee that Ebron's going to hit the market, you think?
Yeah. So in Chris Ballard's end of the season presser, he was actually asked directly what they think they're going to do with Ebron, and Chris Ballard's one of the most secretive, keeps it close to the vest GMs in the league. I mean, he's open about a lot of things, but he likes to keep what he's going to do kind of close at home. But in that presser, he did say we're probably going to move on from Ebron, and there was a lot of reports about frustration with Ebron this past year, especially after when the Colts lost on Thursday night to the Texans. Which basically ended their season. They weren't really going to make the play. They had like a 2% chance of making the playoffs after that. Ebron went into Frank Reich's office and basically wanted to put himself on IR because of a nagging injury throughout the year, an injury that the team, I guess, really didn't know the severity of throughout the year. So it kind of came off, I guess, to the team as like quitting on the season. So there was it was kind of a little rough ending to his time here, but. In regards to his fit with the Redskins, I actually do like that fit, mainly because, he's not the most perfect, well-rounded tight end. He has his issues with drops. He's not really much of a blocker, but, a young quarterback, they love those tight ends. They love getting it to guys who can move and open up the field. And honestly, Eric Ebron for the Colts, even this year when they didn't have much of a passing game, Jacoby Brissett was not really up to par. Even when they didn't have that passing game, Ebron still opened up a lot in the games that he played. Once he was out those last couple games, the offense kind of was a little bit more stagnant than it was throughout the earlier part of the year. So, Ebron, I don't think he's going to be too expensive because he's, over a year removed from that Pro Bowl season. He had a rough year last year, but I think he'd be nice for the Redskins because you get a kind of big target tight end who can win those one-on-one balls and also kind of open up a little bit in the passing game.
Here's the thing, though, and I guess I need your input on it because the thing that number one, I wasn't aware of the problems with Ebron with that injury, with the attitude problems. That doesn't strike me as a Ron Rivera thing because Ron Rivera is a hard-nosed, old-fashioned guy. I don't know if he'd really want to put up with that more than 5 seconds. But the other thing is, Ebron's catch percentage has always been historically really low, with the exception of 1 year. And tight ends, that ain't gonna fly with tight ends. And they're coming from Jordan Reed, who had some of the best hands you could ever find. Right. So I don't know if Ebron really fits with that mold because of his hands. Now you tell me. I mean, they had Jacoby Brissett last year. Throwing footballs and God knows who else. I mean, you lost Andrew Luck. Was it the quarterback or was it Ebron with the catch percentage?
It's always kind of been an Ebron thing, and. I'm not one to ever take away the blame from Jacoby Brissett. I'm known as one of the biggest haters in Colts Twitter when it comes to Jacoby Brissett, so I'm not one to take away the blame from him. But, we've seen it throughout his whole career. Like you kind of mentioned there with Detroit, he had a lot of those drops. Even with the Colts, with Andrew Luck and him had that great connection, he still had his fair share of drops. So that's always going to be part of his game, unfortunately. I don't think it's something that's going to be cleaned up. And I agree with you. It's something that, when he's doing the things that he did in 2018, you can definitely live with it. If he's scoring 15 touchdowns a season, you can live with 10 to 15 drops. But when he's not doing that, like last year, when he's not scoring those 10 touchdowns and he's, not really getting involved in the offense, can you really live with those drops? So yeah, it's definitely something that teams are gonna have to weigh. If he wants $7, $8, $9 million a year, which he might ask for right off the bat, yeah, I wouldn't go for that. But if he wants a little bit less than that, I don't think it's tough. I don't think it's really like a hard decision to kind of bring in that kind of talent, even though you kind of know that limit that you're getting. But yeah, I definitely see the worries with that. And yeah, Ron Rivera, I think that does feel like a weird fit with his personality.
I mean, I think if they're going to sign a big name free agent, Austin Hooper is probably the better get, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's more. I mean, with Hooper, I've always said this. You're not. I don't like the idea of paying top 5 money for a guy who's not even top 10 talent. At the position, And I know that's how the market works in the NFL, but like you got to try to avoid those deals, which is going to make tight end hard. You did mention Brissett, and this doesn't really have to do with the Redskins, but what are you kind of hear rumors about a lot of teams and what their moves are going to be at quarterback. I feel like the Colts are one that have been flying under the radar. Compared to we hear Brady going to Tennessee possibly. We hear all these rumors about Phillip Rivers and Bridgewater, probably both taking jobs in Florida. You don't hear anything about the Colts and what their plans are. I mean, are they looking at drafting somebody and grooming them for a year, or what do you kind of getting that vibe out there?
Oh man, I wish I knew. It would make my job a lot easier right now. But they're, again, like I said, the Colts do a good job at kind of keeping it close to the vest. I know from agents I talked to, I know that they are looking at quarterback. But I also heard that last year when they had Andrew Luck, they were looking at quarterbacks. So that's just kind of part of their process. It's tough. I mean, Brissett, I think last year wasn't really a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. I think anyone who really watched the Colts last year come away with that. But yeah, I mean, there's not many great options out there when you have Brissett's contract on the roster right now. I mean, there have been links to Phillip Rivers. There's been some links to Tom Brady. Obviously, there's a lot of links to Jordan Love. The Colts sent scouts to, I think, 9 of his games last year. So they definitely like Jordan Love quite a bit.
And he'll probably be there when they draft still. So
yeah. That's at least the kind of hope that you can kind of set him a little bit behind Brissett and kind of.
I don't know. I think if you bring Jordan Love in, you're going to have to sit him for a year, though. I mean, he's got the arm, but he's got a lot of other issues, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what the idea would be.
Oh, I mean, quite honestly, about Jacoby Brissett, I mean, I don't know what his contractual status is. Is he about to become a free agent? Anybody know?
1 year, $20 million left on the.
Okay.
So he's making 20 this year. He made like 12 last year, and he's got 1 year, $20 million this year. Because
he would be Dwayne Haskins needs a backup. Let's talk about a more realistic free agent who's Devin Funchess. Wide receiver, Colts. Big dude. Some Redskins fans are, have this dream of Devin Funchess converting to tight end, which I don't know how realistic that is because he'd have to actually block somebody. But Devin Funchess, talk to us about him.
Yeah, so Devin Funchess was probably the most disappointing. Well, not the most because obviously Andrew Luck retiring, but it was one of the most disappointing things about last year. I was really excited going into the year with Funchess, and honestly, it's not really because of that I thought he was going to be like a superstar player. It's just when I watched this Carolina film, you kind of saw that he's a big guy, but he can also run routes really well. He has really good change of direction, and his route running was never really an issue. His only issue really with Carolina was kind of consistency and, again, some of those drops here and there. But I don't think it's like an Ebron issue where we've seen it for, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is with Ebron, where Funchess, it really kind of just reared its ugly head that 1 year. But yeah, I was really excited. You get a big body guy who can run routes, he can catch it in traffic, he can make some good plays, and it is kind of a bummer that he missed like all of last year because of an injury in the very first game. So yeah, he probably won't be back in Indy just because that 1 year deal, that experiment kind of didn't really work. But yeah, I mean, I would love him with the Redskins. I think that he's not really a guy who really is a big difference maker, but he's the guy that you can throw out there who has had big seasons in the past. He's played under Ron Rivera, and he kind of fits that kind of big receiver that Haskins needs. I don't think he's a tight end at all. I think people look too much at that combine numbers. I think because at the combine he ran a 4.7 when he was injured. Right. And then as pro day, when he was healthy, he ran, I think, a 4.4s or something like that, or 4.5s. So he's really not that 4.7 athlete that he was at the combine. He was injured when he ran that. And that's where people kind of get the tight end thing. But yeah, I think
there's no way a lifelong receiver is going to be able to block at a tight end level at all.
No,
you make that conversion out of high school to a tight end and maybe work on the guy a little bit. But when you're in the NFL at this point, I don't know. Unless he wouldn't really be a tight end. You could put the tight end label on him,
right?
But he would just basically be like a slot receiver.
It's the Niles Paul situation all over again. Is what it is. We all remember that from the Redskins.
But Niles converted straight out as a rookie. At least that was
right. Exactly.
Gave him some time.
Put on a lot of weight too, Niles Paul, right?
Even after he put on the weight, he still didn't look like a tight end. He still looked like just a fat wide receiver.
They didn't use him as an inline tight end either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Devin Funchess. Are there any other Colts free agents that we are not thinking of that might be Redskins prospects?
I don't think there's really many that fit. Y'all, Jabal Shears hitting the market, and he's had a really good career, but he's more of a 4-3 defense. Or you guys are moving to a 4-3, that is.
4-3,
they are.
Yeah, he might be a fit, but I think he's going to be a starter somewhere. He's a really good run defender. He's not as great a pass rusher anymore. He's kind of fallen off in that department the last couple of years, but I do think he's going to be a good run defending defensive end in the NFL his next couple seasons. They had a couple other guys that are hitting. Jonathan Williams had a couple nice games running back. He had a couple nice games for the Colts last year, but he's like 25. Has only started like 2 games in his entire career, so he's not really like a high market guy. I mean, he might be like a low end guy that you could bring in. But outside of that, the Colts really don't have that many other free agents. They signed back a couple guys. Zach Pascal was going to be like a restricted one. They brought him back after a really big season. And then they brought back Jack Doyle already. So, yeah, they kind of have most of their guys locked up.
Yeah, but I imagine with them, they're probably more focused on rebuilding that offense now is what it's looking like.
Quarterback receivers. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned how the Redskins are going to move to the 4-3 and the defensive end. Of course, if we're going to talk Redskins and we're going to start talking about their rebuild, I think the conversation starts with talking about Chase Young in this coming draft. You've been doing a lot of kind of scouting and looking at tape and stuff already. We saw that you had, a couple different breakdowns of various players, across the board. But what are your thoughts on Chase Young? Let's just start with that and kind of work our way through some of the other guys you've been looking at.
Yeah. So Chase Young, I'm not going to say he's a generational guy, just because in my time watching prospects, I think, I saw the Bosas and I saw Myles Garrett. I don't think he's like head and shoulders above those guys.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're getting a really damn good football player if you draft Chase Young. I mean, you get a guy who not only has great power, has great hands, is quick off the edge. He can really get to the quarterback and he can be a top-tier pass rusher in the league. But I think the one thing that really sets him above when he has all those skills is also his effort level. From what I saw, I mean, when he's double-teamed, triple-teamed, you still see him fighting in there. You see him chasing down screens. You see him all over the place. And I think when you have a guy who's as talented as him, as athletic as him, who can make a difference in the pass game like that, and also has that effort, can also be a pretty good run defender. I really like Chase Young. I mean, I think he's one of the better players in this draft. I think he's one of the better pass rushers to come out the last couple of years. And if the Redskins take him at 2, you're getting a real difference maker on defense.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd like to point out about it is everybody, you just said it. Everybody criticized Young for his, the playoff games, the national championship game, all that, and what because he didn't make any sacks. What people don't realize is he was double teamed, triple teamed, had a huge impact on the game. But you don't know this, Zach, but Alex does, and everybody listening does. I have been on a quest to beg the Redskins to trade out of 2.
Okay.
But the reason is I like Chase Young. Chase Young's a great player, but I think the need at defensive end is a lot less than the needs at some other place for the Redskins. There's some other prospects out there. Jeff Okudah, Isaiah Simmons, either one of them I think would provide more of an impact for the Redskins kind of long term than would Young, just because of the nature of the defense and the roster. So let's start with Isaiah Simmons, who's my guy. What do you see in Isaiah Simmons, and would he be a fit for a new 4-3 defense?
Yeah, so starting with the trade back option though, I completely am with you on that. I don't think it should just be Chase Young or nothing. in this draft class. You should never go into a draft thinking that.
No.
You should always keep your options open, and if they get a good enough deal to trade back, and you can get a guy like Okudah or Simmons, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great deal, and because Simmons, I mean, he's an absolute freak. We saw at the combine. I think. Do you guys follow Math Bomb on Twitter with the RAS scale that he does?
No.
I don't think we do. No, actually.
Okay, so I would definitely recommend all listeners and you guys to check him out. He does this thing called RAS, which is relative athletic score, where he puts their basically all-time combine performances and pro day guys with their athleticism and puts on like a scale of 1 to 10, essentially. And after Simmons' combine, he put
second at 11.
Yeah, well, he put Simmons at linebacker. It was a 10.0. Put him at safety, 10.0. Cornerback, 10.0. Like defensive end, 10.0. Wide receiver, 10.0. Like it was every single position he put him at. He was the elite athlete. Like he is just.
To be honest, I think Isaiah Simmons is the only guy I've ever seen that it compares to Sean Taylor in terms of range, athleticism, flat out speed. I mean, he is Sean Taylor, only bigger to me.
Yeah, and the fun part with him too, and you know, I growing up as a kid, I was a little kid watching Sean Taylor. It's hard for me to even put anyone in that same
sure.
Yeah, the same name.
Because, even as he was people who weren't little kids, we get
it. Yeah, he was my idol, man, growing up. But yeah, with Simmons, I think the one thing that makes him such a great prospect is in today's NFL, you need guys who can do multiple things. I mean, safeties nowadays have to play slot coverage. They have to be man guys. They have to be overhand guys. They have to be box guys. You have to do so much so you can disguise your defense. And when you get a guy like Simmons, you don't only have a guy who can do all those things. You have a guy who can do all those things at an elite level. You know, he can rush off the edge. He can play linebacker. He can play safety. He can play slot corner and lock up somebody if you need him to. I think that, you know, adding him to your defense just adds a different layer of not only athleticism and playmaking ability, but also adds another layer of we can disguise just about anything we want because he can be anywhere for us. And I think that's a great trait to have.
So, Zach, I just watched the movie Draft Day a while ago on TV, and one of the things that the Kevin Costner character, it's a great movie. You got to watch it, especially since we have no football. You got to watch stuff like this.
It's the love story part, terrible. I wish they would have cut that out, but the rest of it,
awful.
Great. Yeah.
But where I'm going with this is that one of the things that Costner said in that movie that was actually interesting and not a movie thing, said everybody has something. Nobody's a perfect prospect. And he's right about that. You know, the Montana, too small, all that stuff. So Simmons isn't perfect either. So what are Simmons, and neither is Chase Young, what are their weaknesses?
Yeah, so Young, I think overall isn't extremely powerful. You know, I don't think he's an insanely powerful guy. You know, like when you see guys like Myles Garrett the last couple of years with the Bosa's, I think that they won a lot more with power than Young did. But honestly, that's kind of my biggest thing. Again, perfect is not. I wouldn't say these guys are perfect, but there are some things they could still work on to be great. And then Simmons, I think, you know, I don't know, man. Simmons is really good.
Simmons actually is perfect.
No, like, again, little things that, you know, like maybe he could be a little bit better as a tackler. He could maybe be more developed at individual positions. But again, I mean, we're talking about top of the line prospects here in this class. It's not really going to be necessarily what their flaw is. It's more like, okay, this area they're pretty good at. They can still get a little bit better, you know?
Yeah. So, and also you've written a lot about corners. You know, I know you've watched a lot of corners. Obviously, Jeff Okudah is a great player. And nobody deny that. I mean, I think you'd agree. He's a great man, you know, great in pattern matching, great man corner, strong, big, all that stuff. That's known. But the other guys, this is what I want to talk about. You know, CJ Henderson stood out at the draft. There's a bunch of, I think it's a pretty good corner group.
Yeah, isn't that one of the couple of spots where we're really deep this draft is corner?
Yeah. So talk to us about the corner group specifically and some of these folks that maybe people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of really good corners in this class. I mean, Henderson, I'm not super duper high on, just because I think on film there was some struggles with his physicality and also competing at the catch point. But with him, you're getting a guy who can mirror and match and stay with anybody, and he'll be right there on every receiver. You know, quarterbacks won't test him because he'll be right there on every single receiver. So yeah, he definitely has a lot of upside too with that combine. But yeah, other guys that people don't really talk as much about, I think you know, Fulton out of LSU. It should be right up there in that first-round conversation. I think his film is outstanding, and he's a really competitive guy. Damon Arnett, the other corner out of, or the other corner is what some people called him, beginning of the process when Shaun Wade was in the class. But Damon Arnett, he doesn't really have the elite athleticism or the elite, arm length or anything like that, but he is just a physical, competitive guy. He punches receivers in the mouth at the line of scrimmage. He's a great tackler. I really like Damon Arnett for the right price, obviously. But some other guys too. Michael Ojemudia out of Iowa is a great zone corner, really, really smart guy, makes a lot of plays. Troy Pride Jr. out of Notre Dame, really athletic guy who had a great Senior Bowl. This is a really loaded cornerback class. I would think, up until cornerback 10 to 15 drafted in this class, you're going to get some pretty good guys that can make impacts in the league.
I mean, what about Cameron Dantzler? Cameron Dantzler, because he ran the really, really slow 40, but I think he's a good corner. What do you think of him? At Mississippi State.
Yeah. Dantzler's tough. I had him as a top 30 player, actually, before that combine. But if you look at all time, players who ran slower than a 4.6, corners that ran slower than a 4.6 who have actually had an impact in the league, there's only one, and it's Josh Norman. And that's the only one, like, all time that has ever really ran that slow. So we're kind of in unprecedented territory with him where, again, testing isn't everything, but when it's historically bad, you kind of have to weigh it a little bit in there. So where I am with him is I still love the film. I think he's really competitive. I like his length, and I like the way that he gets on receivers, and he locked down some of the best guys last year when he played against them. But you do have to kind of factor in that 40 time and think, our receivers just going to burn him left and right. Because, can you, like, say Henry Ruggs gets drafted in the division and you draft Cam Dantzler, is his 4.6 really going to keep up with Ruggs running 4.2 on the outside?
That kind of speed kind of restricts you in the NFL to being just a zone guy.
Maybe he's a free safety.
Well, I don't know if you want a slow free safety either.
Yeah, now you can't have 4.6 safeties anymore either in the NFL. You can have those 4.4 unicorns back there too.
Yeah. All right, so we're kind of coming up on it, but you did write a couple pieces recently, one on Terrence Steele of Texas Tech, and I noticed something on Jacob Breland, and, since we talked about it earlier, tight end and left tackle going to be big needs for the Redskins. So give us some thoughts on those guys, and we'll talk about them.
Yeah. So to start off, what those pieces are, they're film sessions with the actual prospects themselves. I sit down with them, I send them a couple clips that I like from their film, and we just kind of talk about, parts of their game I like, parts of their game where I could see improvement, even where they could see some improvement. Also, kind of like their scheme that they ran. And one thing that I really want to throw out there is it's unreal how smart these guys are. I mean, every single one of them, how much football they know. I mean, I talked to two guys who are going to go undrafted to start that series, and Perry Young from Cincinnati and Nate Evans from UCF, two linebackers, and those guys could recall every instance of every single play and certain play calls. These guys are really smart when you talk to them. But starting with Terrence Steele, I do like him as a developmental guy. I don't think he's going to go, relatively high in his class. I think he's more of a day 3 guy. But, he had a really competitive Senior Bowl. I think he had some good moments there at the Senior Bowl. On his film, his hands and his length are what really stands out. He can lock down guys at will. With those aspects there, he's a very physical guy. He wins at the point of attack. The biggest issue with him, though, is going to be that lower body. It's getting that footwork, working in line with his upper body, and also just putting more strength there. So he might be a guy that you kind of sit for a year and kind of get him in that weight room, get his legs stronger, and get his footwork better. But I think he can be a solid, swing tackle, maybe low end starter in the league. And then Jacob Breland, tight end, people don't talk much about him because he tore his ACL last year. He tore his ACL after 6 games, and in those 6 games, he had 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he was on pace for, close to 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns, and we'd be talking about him probably as a top 5 or so tight end in this class. Sure. Former wide receiver, good film. He's a good blocker as well. I don't think he's necessarily going to be like a high-end tight end 1 in the NFL. But if you want a guy who can be like a low-end tight end 1, maybe a high-end tight end 2, I think he's going to be really solid. So he's still recovering from the ACL injury, but I really liked his film, and I really like talking to him. He's a good player.
Mm. All right, Zach Hicks, thank you very much for joining us on our show here. And, you got to do a little throwback and talk some burgundy and gold. So,
yeah, yeah, I still follow the Skins. I love the Skins. I'm still a Skins fan. I can't tell people that when I cover the Colts, but no, I watched the Skins, and last year was fun. It was probably the most entertaining year in years last year to watch, in my opinion, just because you had guys like McLaurin out there making plays, and he was the most exciting rookie in years as well. And Haskins, those last couple games was fun. So, I'm hoping for good things for the Redskins going forward. Hopefully, guys can stay healthy. McLaurin can keep, doing his thing, and they figure out something with this Trent Williams situation.
Well, maybe he might be going to, who knows? You hear almost every team associated with him, so I'm not.
Which you should. I mean, last time he played, he was a top 5 tight end. So I mean,
or
you
tackle,
should hear.
Yeah.
Or tackle, tight end. We talk too much about tight ends.
We did. Sorry, you got tight ends on the brain.
He could probably be a top 5 tight end. He's a beast.
When he was younger, he had the 40 time where he could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Zach Hicks,
thanks for joining us, and you have a good day.
Yeah, you too, guys. Good luck with quarantine.
Yeah, thanks. Well, folks, that was Zach. He is a great guy to follow if you love to see draft highlights and breakdowns. And he used to be prolific in Redskins coverage. I remember back before he jumped to the Colts, man. He was nuts back in the day.
Yeah, check him out at cover1.net, I believe it is, and on Twitter. He's got a ton of great great things. I surprised him with that hot take thing. I didn't mean to sandbag.
Yeah, well, we've been surprising multiple people with that, and of course we're not supposed to be talking about that on the show. I don't know. Is that a secret? Are we keeping that a secret?
I don't think it was a secret. Is it a secret? Did I just blow it? I don't know.
All right. So, folks, just be ready. We're doing separate hot takes with all these guys that we're going to do like one big crazy episode with. So
it's going to be the draft spectacular.
Right. Granted, it'll only be like 15 minutes of hot takes.
Well, we have to add to it.
We'll add to it. Yes. All right, well, let's get back into it because we did have some other Redskins things we wanted to talk about today, without Zach. I think the big story, there's a couple. One, of course, is that basically the NFL is shutting down scouting, and the Redskins led the way in this, which the Redskins leading the way in anything is kind of weird to me, Steve.
Yeah, definitely.
When's the last time you ever heard Dan Snyder did this and everyone's, applauding him for planning on just kind of shutting down scouting for the rest of
I don't think that's ever happened. I don't think anybody's ever applauded the Redskins for that.
And 20 years from now, people will say he was the last person to do it. You know that. History will be revised where something happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been a bit of a contrarian surprise about this whole, Wuhan virus thing.
Right.
And it's not because I'm being a jerk and I hope, people get sick.
Well, it's also that. But.
Well, no, I mean, aside from a handful of people, and you know who you are, that I do hope get sick. I mean, for the most part, I wish well for at least most of society. But no, but seriously, I guess my thought on it is I refuse to surrender. And I don't think that this incident is something that we necessarily need to shut down all of society over, for example. And so as it relates to, and I just think it's a dramatic overreaction. People are gone nuts for when they don't have to. And in terms of football, I mean, the big question really is, does the NFL need to have its league year start and open free agency? I say absolutely yes. And I know there's, hand wringers out there that are terrified of that. And you've approached me on Twitter about it and called me all sorts of names, and that's fine. I revel in that. But here's the thing. There's no reason why the league year can't open. Doesn't mean every free agent needs to be signed on Thursday morning, but if teams want to do business, what's wrong with them doing business if they can and if they want to? They don't have to, and look, you don't need to do visits for the big name free agents who are going to be signed at first anyway. You can do the Tom Brady's of the world without a visit if you have to.
Well, and I mean, this has been the argument that's been on Twitter, I think, the most is, at least from what I've seen between you and some other folks, is there's some people who seem to think that the physical actually matters. And I got news for you folks. It doesn't. The physical is kind of always been a joke when it comes to these big name guys. If the team wants you, you pass the physical no matter what your condition is. Guys will get signed who have serious injuries next week or whenever the free agency starts. because we want A-list talent. That's what matters more. If you have a broken leg and you're still a star, you're still a star, so they'll sign you. That the physical doesn't matter in the big picture.
And you can do meetings, via video teleconference.
Yeah, we do every episode of this show via Skype.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I see Steve, he sees me, we both regret it, and we move on.
Exactly right. I mean, we'd rather have no video, but we have to suffer through it. But point is, I'm not saying that the football world needs to hop on a bunch of planes and fly all over the place. I'm saying if you want to open free agency, and you can do some work. If you don't want to do it, don't. But if you want to at least get the big name guys signed, there's no reason why you can't. And you can't turn society into a bunch of house moms who are. That's terrible. I didn't mean it like that. You can't turn society into a bunch of shut-ins who are terrified without reason. This is not World War III, and it's not in fact the zombie apocalypse. You can do some work. It's okay.
Right.
And that's my point.
I think what Dan Snyder said or had his team do, which is stop flying around to visit people. That's a reasonable accommodation for what's going on. Even.
And they have film anyway.
Yeah.
It's all 95% of film. So as it applies to the Redskins, obviously we've been over this Trent Williams thing. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, Alex, I do have a poll.
Oh, right. We kind of skipped over that because we have guests at the beginning of shows.
Yeah, well, and also because I forgot to.
Well, yeah. So I know what the poll is because you and I kind of worked on it together. And I do have a minor grievance with you on the poll questions.
Okay, well, let's get to it then.
All right.
So the poll question this week is this. What is the minimum trade value you think the Redskins should accept for Trent Williams? The choices were 1 first-round pick, 1 second-round pick, a package of multiple picks, or picks plus a player in return. So, Alex, what is your problem with the poll, and then what do you think?
All right, so it's a minor grievance, and that is that when I suggested this poll, my idea was – here's the 3 offers that you're going to get. It was a Cleveland second rounder, the 2/3 from the Jets that everyone's been talking about, and then Stephon Diggs because Redskins fans all have a crush on Stephon Diggs. So I thought that would be a fun poll. So it wasn't a big grievance. It's just I would have done it that way, and you did it. What's the minimum you take? And
I was just kind of trying to So what do you think? Yeah, your thoughts and what do you think Redskins fans voted for?
My thought is I'll take whatever I can get. If there's 2 offers, and let's be honest, let's say, if the best offer is a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder, I'll take it at this point. I just want him off the team. I think Redskins fans, will probably go. They won't say just a couple picks. What was it? Second rounder.
One first-round pick, 1 second round, then a package of multiple, and then picks plus a player.
I think they'd say picks plus a player, really.
Okay.
I think that would be and we're assuming, this is the problem. We're assuming we meant starter, right, when you wrote picks plus a player?
Yeah, I mean, look, these Twitter polls are limited by characters. It's really hard to get specific.
But I wanted to know your thought process. When you say picks plus a player, you're talking like starter.
Yeah, I didn't mean like, some back of the roster.
Linebackers?
Yeah, no. Yeah. I meant like a maybe not Stephon Diggs because that's not going to happen, but somebody. Yeah, some legitimate player.
Okay, I know the Vikings cut Xavier Rhodes, but if it had been like Xavier Rhodes, that would have...
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so
that's
first of all, I would have voted for a second round pick. I've always thought Trent was a second round pick.
I think
even
that's
going back
value.
to last
I just don't know if anyone will offer it.
Oh, I think they will. But so the fans also voted for second round pick. But I voted 52%, as a matter of fact, second round pick. The second place was a package of multiple picks, and then only 10% of the public would hold out for a first round pick, and then 11% were picks plus a player.
Wow, so that was pretty far off.
Yeah, you were pretty far off. And personally, for me, I wouldn't accept just a best offer. It would have to be a best reasonable offer. And to me, 4th and 5th round pick, like you suggested, not a reasonable offer. I would just hang on to the dude. If you don't get a best, a real offer for Trent Williams, go to him and say, hey, look, we tried. We gave you the opportunity to try and arrange a trade. You didn't. Come play another year.
Yeah, well, I mean, then
that's
he's
what I would
likely
do.
just holding out for another year, and you let him walk.
Well, then you've changed your career by not playing in 2 years.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? End your career, or you want to play?
Yeah. But that's kind of the next step of the negotiation. Is my point.
No. that's me, and that's me being my normal petty cantankerous self. What I think Ron Rivera will do is figure out how to trade him. I think the Redskins are going to trade him. I don't think Rivera wants to have his first year come in and deal with drama.
Yeah.
So I think what I would do is not what the Redskins will do. I think the Redskins will do what you're saying, which is trade him for whatever they can get.
Now, I know you said you want a second, but what if someone offers like a third and a fourth? Would you take that?
No.
No?
No. I'd be a second round pick is the man's value. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's been off for a year, but I think being off for a year almost probably helped him.
Yeah,
with all his health problems and everything.
I agree with that thought that being off.
This is Trent Williams, and you do not give Trent Williams away for a song. That's just my opinion. Again, I think the Redskins will do what you're suggesting, though. In terms of comments, we had some comments here. We didn't have as many as we normally do because everybody's worried about the zombie apocalypse here.
Right. I was looking at machetes today online. Just for fun.
We'll see. Yeah, I may have to start loading up some firearms and sit on the roof and start taking people out. Not live people, the undead that are going to come.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start off with comment-wise, Gabrielle Wood, who is GCH Wood. His answer to this was egg salad sandwich, meaning he's going to take whatever the heck he can get,
right.
which aligns with what you're saying. Some guy named John Worrell.
Oh, I remember that ruffian.
Now, John did not listen to my recommendation last time, and I told you, John, do not write me a humongously long comment because it's too long to read. Okay?
We don't talk about what John's been going through, but he's bored, man. He
is bored for a reason. Yeah, so I'm going to read half of your comment. But maybe if you can get a little bit more concise, we'll read into the whole comment next time. So we're going to work out this. Honestly, guys, I don't see a scenario where the Redskins decide to keep Trent because nobody offered them enough for him. So he's going along with what you're saying, Alex, which is trade him for whatever the heck you can get. So that's another one. Steven Sparks, anything. So that's all we can. So we can all stop talking about it. Kyle, who's KF Richards, I'd take a third at this point. Anything's better than nothing. There aren't too many comments here that are opposite that. That having been said, that having been said, Mark
seems to be in the just get rid of them camp, is what that tells me.
That's probably the majority of the comments, but there are some that are on my side. Sure. Martin Collison at Redskins Fan UK. The floor should be a second.
Brazy out with our buddy Mark.
Yeah, Brazy at Stay Brazy. Brayze. I'm set on a second round pick and Njoku for Trent and a 5th and 6th round pick. So he's in the package, the package.
Right.
So that's the poll, generally speaking. In terms of the specific offers that are theoretically, hypothetically out there, I guess this, 2/3. No.
You wouldn't do 2/3?
Heck no.
I mean, value wise, technically that ends up being more than the second if you look at those charts. But
I think the Redskins need a second round pick.
I think the Redskins need as many picks as they can get.
Yeah, they can. But listen, if you're going to trade Trent, you need a freaking starting offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And assuming that's not going to happen in free agency, I'm not going to bank on the fact that you can get a starter in the 3rd round. Yes, it's a deep offensive tackle class. I get that. Right. But we just heard, for example, last week, who was our guest last week, Alex?
What?
It was Rob Henson.
Yeah.
Rob Henson. Yeah. Rob said that he didn't think Mekhi Becton, for example, is a guy who can come in and start immediately. Becton's a hot name. He was like a 3rd rounder, and then he blew everybody up at the combine.
Right.
I don't think you can just go out there and say, yeah, no problem. We'll get a starter in round 3. You can't count on that. Maybe you can. Maybe you'll get one for sure, but the odds are frankly against it. Day 1 starter, 3rd round, you're going to bank on that? I wouldn't.
No.
I think you need to get one of the top prospects if you're going to go for it.
I've said for a while, I think we are a dire enough need at tackle where you got to get the best free agent you can. And, if it's not the guy we were talking about with Zach earlier.
Costanza.
Yeah. We keep saying Costanza.
George. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean George Costanza.
No. But
Costanza.
There's that other kid from Seattle. There's, I think, 2 tackles coming out from Seattle who are going to be free agents. Both of them could be starters.
I don't know. The second one you're talking about, look up the name, Alex, because it's going to bug me.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't been a starter up there. He's not a guaranteed starter.
Well, he's been there like
He's a
go-to
spot
swing
starter.
tackle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is he worth a starting? I mean, I'm not enough. I haven't watched enough of him to know, but
I've watched
just
a
from
little
a
of him,
resume
and
perspective,
granted, he's played a lot more right than left, but
yeah.
you know, he reminds me. He's a younger version of what we had with Ty, is what it looks like.
I mean,
a very
you
good swing tackle.
you gonna bank on that though?
I mean, I don't know if you can bank on getting him. That's the concern, of course.
I still think. I mean, drafting
It
a
needs to be
tackle is
priority
the way
one,
to go.
no question.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
So that's the poll. In terms of other news, I mean, there's not a lot of other Redskins news going on right now, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was the Rob Ryan interview where he came on to, who was it, Coward's show, looking like
Colin Cowherd.
Yeah, he looked like a blueberry because he was wearing like a all bright blue suit, and I guess, for those who thought maybe Rob Ryan was looking a little healthier, when he was with the team, I guess losing his job made him depressed, and he ate another Rob Ryan's worth of Rob Ryan.
That's a lot of food there.
The dude was just a perfect sphere. In fact, he kind of looked like the planet Earth with the bright blue and all that.
Rob Ryan is the planet Earth.
Right. But he went on there, and Coward got him to kind of knock Haskins a little bit, but I don't know how much you can take away from that conversation.
Well, number one, I don't care.
Yeah.
Number one, and I especially don't care what Colin Cowherd says. I think he's just a mind-numbing blowhard. Yeah. In terms of what Ryan explicitly said was he didn't think Haskins was close to being NFL ready. Some words to that effect.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of walked it back a little bit, at the end of the interview, by the way. But look, who cares? Who cares what the former linebacker coach says? It's utterly irrelevant.
Right.
I think
also cares one of the, like when he was an offensive coordinator, never had above like a top 10 or
defensive coordinator.
Yeah, defensive coordinator. Never had above like a bottom 10 defense in his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, he's the linebacker coach. Who cares? Right. And yeah, I mean, in terms of at the beginning of the season, he was right. Haskins didn't look like a starter.
Right.
That having been said, he improved dramatically by the end of the year, and he had quarterback ratings of over 120 in his last 2 games. So I don't think it's fair to Haskins. I think Haskins has been bashed.
The first 12 weeks, Haskins was not ready.
Yeah.
That's completely fair.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody should put a ton of stock into what Rob Ryan said on of all shows, the Colin Cowherd shows. Who cares?
Right.
It doesn't matter.
No, I don't think it matters.
I mean, the Redskins definitely need a legitimate backup to him. And maybe Alex Smith can play. Yeah. I don't think anybody knows, but we certainly shouldn't count on that. So I do think that the Redskins sort of by design have to be active in the quarterback free agent market. That's why I was asking Zach about Jacoby Brissett. I couldn't remember what his contractual status was.
Yeah. He kind of signed a weird 2-year deal. Where I think if they wanted to, they can get rid of him, and it's not too bad of a hit. It's like I think it's still like a $10-15 million cap hit, but they'd save some money. In the end, that kind of thing. I'm trying to look and see if there was any other Redskins news real quick, because we are still got plenty of time on the show.
Yeah, I mean, and while you're talking about that, I mean, I think people need to have a reasonable expectation for quarterback, though. This is the problem. You can't bring in like a Teddy Bridgewater and say, hey, you're going to be Dwayne Haskins' backup. That's not what Teddy Bridgewater wants.
No.
Number one, and he's going to require way too much money. You can't spend $20+ million on Alex Smith to have Alex Smith be on IR or rather the NFI list, all year. You're going to have no choice but to have him. If he can play, he's the backup.
But by the way, speaking of Alex Smith, did you hear that rumor? Maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. I know I missed a show, so I'm probably a little off time-wise. Yeah. That Smith and Snyder have some kind of agreement where in 21, after the next season, Smith will be in the front office somewhere.
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, that's really not a CBA-approved thing. Okay?
No. I don't think you're allowed to put anything on paper. It's just
you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would put no stock in that whatsoever.
Well, other than, we saw Smith and Snyder very close together for a while.
But why don't we let the pros, the front office professionals be the front office professionals? Well, that's the thing.
I agree with you, but that being said, we know Alex Smith is a very smart football guy.
Yeah. I'm not saying he wouldn't be good at it. I'm saying
he wants to be in the front office. I would put him in a front office. I wouldn't start him at the top, but
Sure, somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, somewhere. Um, but in terms of quarterbacks, I mean, you're just not going to get a Teddy Bridgewater type.
No.
Let me just run through some names here real fast with this: Drew Brees, Tom Brady,
They're
Philip
gone.
Rivers,
Not
Teddy
even in the conversation.
Bridgewater,
Right.
Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. I don't
Dak.
want Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
I don't want Jameis Winston is a train wreck. Chase Daniel, he's 33 years old. I guess that's a possibility. Case Keenum, probably not.
No.
Chad Henne, Drew Stanton, Colt McCoy, no. Your buddy Nate Sudfeld, will they bring him back? That's a possibility, I guess.
Right.
But he's never really played himself. AJ McCarron is not a bad name.
No.
He has some starting experience. He's of all the names I read so far, he might be number one. Ryan Tannehill's looking to be a starter. Josh McCown, no. Trevor Siemian, Mike Glennon, Brent Hundley, Blaine Gabbert, no. Matt Moore, Joe Webb, Blake Bortles, hell no. Sean Mannion,
Right.
Geno Smith. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Geno Smith is still in the league. That's
why?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you get good money as a backup quarterback, so.
Yeah, David Fales, Jeff Driscoll, Dak Prescott, Brandon Allen, Matt Sims, Nathan Peterman, Taysom Hill, no. Josh Woodrum, who was with the Redskins last year, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of all those names, I might be aiming for A.J. McCarron.
Well,
if Alex Smith can't play, he might be my name.
So I mean, I've kind of been thinking long and hard about the quarterback situation, not just for the Redskins, but the entire league. And I wrote something about this, not in our website, just kind of as a comment on Twitter. And there are going to be more semi-starting caliber quarterbacks, not elite, obviously, but decent quarterbacks available than there are teams at the end of the year. Because you got 3 guys coming out in this draft who will probably all be starting in Hibbert, Tua, and Burrow. Maybe Tua's not healthy, so you're going to have him.
The rumor is he's healthy.
Well, but you know what I mean.
We'll
Maybe they don't want to throw him to the wolves right away or something. Right. You have a bunch of big name guys who are free agents who are going to be starting right away. If you kind of start adding up the numbers, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys who started last year, and I'm not talking great. I'm talking guys like Jacoby Brissett or guys like Marcus Mariota or Fitzpatrick or why am I blanking on the Bengals?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's on a quest to start for every team in the NFL, I think.
I know, but I'm just saying, guys who started probably half a season, who could probably start a full season. There's going to be like 3 or 4 of these guys without teams once you play musical chairs and you stop the music.
Let's just talk draft quarterbacks real fast because I wrote my draft quarterbacks piece.
Sure.
Well, but before we kind of had some chaos with our lineups and all the guests and everything, my original intent was to get through every draft position before the draft, right?
Right.
And so let's just do quarterbacks real fast. I wrote my annual really long quarterback prospects write-up and watched a bunch of film.
Because there's always like 20 quarterbacks who come out every year.
Yeah, I didn't watch as much film as I did last year on the top guys because it's not really Redskins need are. But the way I had it ranked was Burrow number 1. I think his weakness, everybody has a weakness. He has average at best arm strength, probably below average.
Yeah.
And so I think at the end of the day, once you get past the oh my God, Joe Burrow thing and everybody's gaga over him because they like his personality and because he won a national championship, he may be a West Coast offense, limited to West Coast offense guy. Just my thought. Tua, other than the health, he's short, he's small. Yeah. I don't think he's
right-handed, throws left-handed, which is weird.
Yeah, I think if you combined Burrow and Tua, put them together, put Tua's arm with Burrow's mind and moxie into the moxie for both of them, might have an all-pro there.
And I mean, I guarantee you, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I guarantee you at least one of these guys will be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. Long
I don't know
term.
that. I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm not sure either one of them is going to be long term. We'll see. Justin Herbert, the established number 3 guy, his issue is he could be wildly inaccurate at times. Mm-hmm. He has a very big arm, and the big arm guys sometimes have problems like that. Jordan Love is, I think, the established number 4, another guy, humongous arm, huge arm, throwing a ton of interceptions by top of the draft prospect. I view him as kind of a boomer bust guy. He needs a lot of coaching. That's why I told Zach Hicks I don't know if you want Jordan Love starting year 1. Jake Fromm next, quarterback from Georgia, weak arm, system guy, very accurate, smart guy, but very weak arm. That's why he's not ranked top.
He could also be one of those under the radar guys who.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be he could be a decent quarterback, but I don't know if his arm is ever going to make him big time star.
No,
in the
but
NFL.
if you get a guy if they have the smarts, I always say that having the right brain to play quarterback is more important than any physical skill. You can work around the physical if they mentally are tough.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah. Jacob Eason, next guy up. I rated him number 6 on this class. Rocket arm, got beaten out by Fromm at Georgia and transferred to Washington after that happened.
Right.
His problem is he's got such a big arm that he's kind of got Jeff George syndrome. And he makes some dumb decisions. He knows he has this huge arm, so his mechanics are off. He's got weird footwork. He's got accuracy issues, mechanical issues. So that's Eason. He's a guy who I think his arm will get him drafted higher than he probably deserves, just because he's got an. Jalen Hurts, I had him ranked number 7. I watched most of his film at Alabama when I was doing the Cam Sims study 2 years ago, and I didn't think at the time Hurts even looked like an NFL quarterback. I thought he was not an NFL quarterback. He's improved dramatically at Oklahoma in terms of his passing ability, his accuracy.
Right.
He looked like a legitimate NFL quarterback. He's a runner, though, at heart. He's kind of a poor man's Lamar Jackson. He's not quite as good a runner as Lamar. He's not nearly the passer that Lamar is. But he kind of – and he's more of an off-script runner than Lamar ever was. So I guess you could maybe compare him to that, but they're not that similar. But I think Hurts turned himself into an NFL prospect when he wasn't before.
But probably more of a backup type still.
I think so. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know you got another couple names there.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to me is that a lot of these guys who we're saying are probably backups, really, I mean, they've been studs in the NCAA for a couple of years now. It's kind of interesting. Outside those top 4, we're still naming some big names. They're just, I think you're right, though, in kind of your assessment that these aren't going to be starters.
I think it's kind of a weak quarterback class, to be honest. And even like Burrow at the top, he's clearly the best quarterback because of his intelligence, his consistency, all of that. But by number 1 overall prospect terms, I don't know how great he is because of his arm. I'll go fast through the last couple of names I had here. I ranked Nate Stanley from Iowa number 8. He's I think late day 2 pick. Steven Montez from Colorado, huge arm. That's going to get him drafted. Anthony Gordon, the latest air raid guy from Mike Leach at Washington State, weak arm, small frame, but he's a gunslinger. He put up huge numbers. The 3 guys I think were the Redskins developmental choices, possibly back of the draft guys, because I think Redskins could use, and Alex, I know that you're a fan of this too. The Redskins could use a backup developmental guy.
Always. I think every team should always have one.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly Redskins, who literally have one healthy quarterback right now.
Right.
James Morgan, Florida International, 6'4", 229 pounds, 23 years old. Started at Bowling Green. And ended up transferred to Florida International by the end of it all. These guys are guys that have NFL arms that just need development. Mm-hmm. I think Morgan has a decent arm. He's got a pretty good arm. Inconsistent accuracy, though, but it's because of his footwork, and his mechanical issues. So if you get him into a good coach, I think a lot of that stuff may be fixable. But his arm is what you can't just coach is a good NFL arm. So some analysts view him as a bit higher, so it's possible he may be gone before like round 7. Jake Luton from Oregon State. Luton's another guy who transferred all around. He was at the University of Idaho, had a spinal injury in 2017, ended up at a community college for a while before he went to Oregon State. Another
Oregon
guy.
State. I think I said Morgan State. I was like,
okay. No, Oregon State. Another guy has a decent arm, at least an average NFL arm. And I think that at the back of the draft, guys, that's about all you can maybe get.
Yeah.
He doesn't progress through his reads very well. He locks on to targets, misses deep. Again, this is stuff that coaching can help. Fix his mechanics, let him develop for maybe you got a backup. Last guy, Cole McDonald, Hawaii. the latest in a long line of Hawaii gunslingers out of the Rainbow Warriors.
Right.
There's been a bunch of them. We had Colt Brennan.
Who started the whole cult of Colt thing here in D.C.,
Yeah, exactly. So McDonald's another guy. He's another guy who's got a really big arm, above average arm strength by NFL standards. He's another guy, inconsistent footwork. If you watch him, it looks like he's not transferring his weight at all. It looks like he's completely an upper body guy. He would be helped a lot by NFL coaching who fixed this and fixed his footwork, turn him into a full body thrower that would help him a lot. He's got such a great arm by college standards that he tries to throw into a lot of tight windows that even probably when he shouldn't have. So again, this is a development and coaching guy. So I think he has the natural tools, just needs coaching. So those are the three guys I would aim at for the Redskins: James Morgan, Jake Luton, Cole McDonald, 3 round 7 types who might be good.
So I've said this a couple times, and I doubt this is the way the Redskins are thinking. I really do think they should draft one of those guys would be perfect. Someone in the 7th round, and just plan for that to be your number 2. And here's why. You are not playoff caliber yet as a team. No matter what they do this offseason, I don't think we're that good. They should not give up on Haskins yet. So start Haskins, but if he goes down for 4 or 5 games, I don't care if we lose all 5 of those games.
I don't think Ron Rivera would agree with you, though.
And that is why, coaches should not be GMs. Because I think if you tank 5 games to help your draft stock a little bit next year, I'm okay with that. I don't want you taking the whole season, but, I want you trying to build Haskins up. That's my number 1 priority. So I love the idea of getting a guy in the 7th round, say you're the backup. If Haskins goes down, you're in.
I just don't think the Redskins are going to do that.
No,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just don't think they will. I think they're going to bring in a vet. I like an A.J. McCarron, I guess, is maybe my number 1 backup target, assuming Alex Smith can't play. If Alex Smith can play, then he's the backup.
Changes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But either way, they need to draft somebody to be, like you said, the long-term backup.
Right.
You need to have somebody, one of these guys. Maybe it's somebody else. But to me, Morgan, Luton, and McDonald, one of those 3 guys, they ought to draft him to make him the backup at some point.
I think every 2 years you should be drafting a quarterback somewhere in the draft. You should always have guys on rookie deals, and you should have one guy getting paid big money, and that's how.
Some guy named Bill Belichick agrees with you.
Right, exactly, and Andy Reid, and a lot of other Hall of Fame coaches seem to have this idea of just constantly drafting quarterbacks,
right?
Keeping them as cheap backups or whatever,
Yeah, or then you trade them and you get some value out of them.
Right, exactly.
And look how many times the Patriots have done that, for God's sakes. Like 3 or 4 times at least.
They did it 3 or 4 times. Andy Reid in Philly, remember how often he did it there, too?
He dumped...
He got a first-round pick, I think, for A.J. Feely or something like that.
Yeah, well, and he dumped Donovan McNabb on us when he had a younger guy behind him.
Yeah, exactly.
I said us, as if I'm on the Redskins. You guys know what I meant.
Yes, we all knew. But anyway, so... Yeah, the Redskins will never do what I suggested, which is why I'm right and they're wrong, because it'll never be proven.
Alex needs to be the GM. I've always said I need to be the GM. Maybe, Alex, you need to be the GM.
That would go terribly.
I know we're totally out of time and all that,
we are.
But here's what I guess we need to do a prediction at the end of the show here. So, do we think the NFL league year actually is going to start?
Yes,
on Wednesday.
Okay. And I'll actually tell you why. One thing we didn't mention: ESPN is desperate for content.
They are.
And if all that's available to them is NFL free agency, that's what the NFL wants them talking about 24/7.
NFL free agency and the UFC. That's it.
Right. I guarantee the UFC will shut down at some point too.
I don't know. I mean, Dana White didn't look like he was ready to shut down. I think it's a fair thing can be said that Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz shut down American society.
Yep. And
Rudy Gobert actually made, and also I'm kidding, but I'm kind of not. I'm kidding in a little bit, but I do think that what Rudy Gobert did with his actions to put his hands all over the mics and all that stuff, that was one of the most significant events to ever happen to American pro sports. You got that act alone when he came down with this virus. That act alone is what really shut down the NBA. And when that happened, that was like a cascading effect. So Rudy Gobert sort of caused all that. I think if that hadn't happened, what we might have is games played in front of empty arenas. Because to be perfectly honest, the NFL doesn't care a whole heck of a lot about ticket revenue, and neither does the NBA. They would rather have it than not. But for the NBA, you're talking about $2 million a game on average. That's chump change compared to the TV revenue that ESPN is losing,
right?
And the NBA is losing by domino effect.
Rudy Gobert costs pro sports probably $1 billion just in the next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the total sports revenue by month is for the entire world, but
that I don't know. It's a lot.
I'm gonna say let's say it's $1 billion in the United States every month, because that
could be.
That sounds like a fair number to me.
Could be
just guessing.
Yeah.
But,
so
I think the world $1 billion, Rudy Gobert, with your antics.
You really did, Rudy. And so I think you're right in that. I think ESPN is desperate for content. NFL Network is desperate for content.
Right. If you have free agency, that's something.
Because anybody ever notices, like the MLB Network during the offseason repeats the movie The Rookie over and over and over again.
Right.
The Golf Channel repeats, what's that Kevin Costner golf movie? Yeah, they repeat that over and over and over again. ESPN's going to have to ring up their Disney overlords at some point and start bringing in Disney sports movies.
All the Air Bud movies and
all that stuff, right? Because look, they can't have Sports Center for like they're doing all weekend is Sports Center. So something needs to change, and so people, I think the NFL knows this, and they also know that despite what you guys out there think and keep harassing me about it, you can do the bulk of free agency remotely if you have to.
Yeah.
And it's not that society is not in that big of trouble. So I do think you're right. I think free agency will go on in some limited fashion.
The stuff that actually matters in free agency, which is agents talking numbers with teams, is all done over a cell phone anyway.
Skip the visits.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I'm calling Tom Brady. Tom, you want to come here? No? You think that the Redskins are nowhere close to the playoffs? Okay. Later.
By the way, I think Zach mentioned that Colts fans are rooting for Brady, something like that. I think that's just nuts. Tom Brady's never going to go to the Colts.
Well, I wouldn't say never, but that would be weird.
I'd say never. I'd say never.
Brady in a Colts jersey after the whole him and Manning rivalry for so many years would be weird.
Well, not only that, it's that they're not a great team.
No.
It's not a great situation. It's in Indianapolis. There's no Q rating to be had in Indianapolis. Don't forget he's a Hollywood guy.
San Francisco makes sense. San Diego makes sense, and
the Raiders make sense.
Raiders, but I just have a hard time seeing the Raiders letting Carr go. I know that everyone talks about it. I just don't see it. That's just
maybe not. Yeah, but on the other hand, John Gruden's been known to do crazy things.
Gruden's don't know what to do about quarterbacks.
John Gruden is just a crazy dude. Yeah. He might just go, "Hey, look, Tom Brady, sign him." Period. Yeah. Bye, Brandon.
Yeah, he makes
not Brandon,
grunt noises.
David.
Yeah.
Bye, David. Get out.
Yeah. Johnny Carr. We don't know which Carr.
And you could do worse with your model wife than Las Vegas. But you're not going to bring Giselle to Indianapolis.
No,
that's just not going to happen.
She would be the prettiest girl there, and you never know what happens. So, all right, let's cut this show off because we've gone off the rails. I got to get back into my quarantine tent. So
yeah, I can't wait to lose my chem warfare suit. So after I'm done with you.
All right,
I
guys.
put the mic inside the mask. That's why you can't tell I'm wearing it, guys.
Yeah. All right, thanks for checking us out this week. We promise we'll have Jamal back on, I think, next week because his mic died or something. We don't really know.
Yeah, we had a technical problem with Jamal. He hasn't abandoned us.
Right. But we have more guests coming up, and you all should look forward to that. So thanks for listening.